We're going to talk aliens, UFOs, ghosts, spiritual and paranormal. From all of the three moons, beyond your wildest dreams. Dead Tommy. Nice.
TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. Excited, delighted to be with you guys again for another amazing episode. We cover all things spiritual. We're going to get it in, leave no stone unturned. It's what we do here. Shout out to everybody watching the podcast live, tuning in with us, listening on Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching. Shout out to you guys. Chat room is open. If you have any questions or comments during the live stream, be sure to send them there, and I'll try to translate them over to the guest today. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you buckle up. Really good. Don't miss it. Also, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody supporting my work via Patreon. This is a listener-supported and funded show. Does not exist without your help, so thank you guys for believing in my work and partnering with me from the bottom of my heart. It means the world that you guys are co-creators with me on this journey. Thank you so much. And we're going to give a shout out to some of the latest patrons within the last week or so, some of the newcomers to the community. Shout out to Daniel Padilla. Shout out to you, my friend. Only. Abe, thank you for coming on. And TP, thank you guys for believing in the work and coming on. If you'd like to support, go to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music, which is 200 plus songs. You get access to behind the scenes stuff, extra interviews. My guided meditations are available there as well. But you also get access to our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is the community aspect to what we're building here. Tonight we'll be doing it, and we're going to be tapping into the prophetic, practicing your prophetic abilities, learning to be able to see and hear in the spirit. There's some techniques and things to learn to step into that, and you're going to be doing it in a safe environment and learning with like-minded people. So if that interests you, make sure that you sign up for any level of giving over at Patreon, patreon.com/TruthSeekah. You can check it out there. Also, if you have not had a chance to check it out yet, get it. My new book is here, Spirit Realm, Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. Foreword by Jordan Maxwell. Thank you guys for all the support on that. You can get a copy at TruthSeekah.com. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's conversation. My guest today is Colm Holland. Colm, welcome to the TruthSeekah podcast, my friend. How are you?
Yeah. Hi, Derek. I'm really well. Nice to meet you.
We got a great subject matter to talk about today, something very near and dear to my heart. I'm glad that I have some experience with this book that we're going to be speaking about, but you have a compendium, a how-to, the secret behind the Alchemist, the famous book by Paulo Coelho. We're going to talk about your guide to that book that's coming out tomorrow, actually, right?
Yeah, released finally tomorrow. 4 years in the making, but it was worth waiting.
A lot of backstory on that. You worked for the publishing company that put the book out originally.
Yeah. So back in 1993, believe it or not, this is the book, everybody, that Derek and I are talking about. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Those of you who have read it know how amazing it is. In 1993, Paulo Coelho was unknown. He had written in Brazil in Portuguese. He'd written The Alchemist, and it had mediocre success. It was okay. And I used to work for HarperCollins Publishers in the Sydney office. I was the marketing director there. And manuscripts would just arrive on my desk. And one Friday afternoon, a pile of manuscripts arrived, and I was thumbing through them. And the cover of the original book, which is different to the one I just showed you, if you Google The Alchemist original cover, it's purple, there's a shepherd boy, and right in the center is this Arab-dressed figure with the all-seeing eye of God on his forehead. And they say you should never judge a book by its cover, but I did. And I broke a rule, which was never to take manuscripts home at the weekend, because I was meant to be with the family who didn't see me during the week at all. So I did all of those things, and I sat down on a Sunday afternoon in my backyard in Sydney, and literally the sun set on the final page of that manuscript. I think I was about the 5th person in the world to read it in English at that time. It's since sold over 85 million copies. It's been translated into 70 different languages. And one of the amazing things that happened was that when I read it, apparently, unknown to me, I was the first person in the company to believe that it was going to be a mega blockbuster bestseller. And word of that actually got back to Paulo, because I rang my colleagues in America at the time in San Francisco, and they said, "Oh, Colm, how many copies of this book do you want?" We were going through the list, because normally I would order 2,000, 3,000 for a first unknown author, first book. Australia wasn't a huge market in those days for this kind of thing. And I said, I want 20,000. And I want them in paperback. And I want them now. I don't want to wait for a hardcover. Let's just do this thing. And my colleague in San Francisco said, "Are you drunk?" And I said, no, because something happened to me on that Sunday afternoon. And I'm going to ask you, Derek, about your story. And it might be interesting if in the comments section as we're going live, if people want to throw in their experience of first reading The Alchemist. So this was mine, and this was 27 years ago. And I'd been on a spiritual journey, but I reached that point in my journey where, if you take the character of Santiago in The Alchemist, I was at the point that Santiago was at when he reached the oasis. And that is, many of us, we go on the journey, we pursue the spiritual life, whatever that looks like for us as individuals. But there's a point that we get to where we almost give up. And it's not a kind of like this big decision, "Oh, I'm not going to be spiritual anymore. I'm just, not going to try this stuff. I don't believe in it." It's not about that. It's just a very deep complacency can build in. And one of the reasons Paulo wrote The Alchemist is to speak to that point in so many people's lives. So at the point that Santiago reaches the oasis, and we can cover the story for those who don't know the fable, the fable of the alchemist. An alchemist appears, this character, the alchemist appears and says to him, "I'm going to give you a choice. You can either carry on the journey in your dream to pursue your dream and find your real, true treasure, or if you stop now, what you'll find is you will lose all the things that you think you've already gained." And that's the point. I was 40 years old. I know I don't look old enough. Yes, thank you, Derek, for the compliment there, man. I was 40 years old. And I was at that point that I had pretty much buried my spiritual roots, and I was quite thinking, I just need to settle down now and do whatever I can get out of my career. But I was disillusioned in my job and so on. What happened? The miracle, the kind of magic thing that took place within just a month or so of me ordering 20,000 copies is that Paolo found out. So word got back to Paolo through the editor, and he contacted us in Australia, and he said, I know I'm coming to Australia. He was speaking at a literary festival that we'd set up for him, his first one in English. And I want to come by Sydney, and I want to thank Colm and the marketing PR manager as well for all the hard work that we've put in to make him such a success in the early days in Australia. And we met in a restaurant. And he said, in the restaurant, he said, I really want to treat you guys to a meal. I want to thank you. By the way, this is really, really unusual. And I've worked at mainstream publishing for many years. It's rare that an author would bother, even just take the time out to take the publishers out for a meal. And when we were in the restaurant, he said, I've got a gift I want to give you guys. I'm thinking, oh, seriously? Okay, this is, wow. All right, this is a first. And he looked at my PR manager and said, I asked God, and I asked my wife, Naomi, what I should give you. And he pulled out this little diamond dress ring in a jewelry box. And it was worth a couple of $1,000. And she just broke down in tears. I mean, it was one of those moments and we all clapped and wow, this Paolo guy is something else, not used to this. And then he looked at me. And so just to put this in context, everyone, how shallow am I? So on my mind, he said, I've asked God what I should give you, Colm. And my brain's going, yeah, gold Rolex. Isn't that terrible? Oh, I'm not ashamed to say that, to admit it, but it just shows you the sad state of my heart and my soul at that point. He said, so I did ask God what I should give you, and God told me that I should spend a day of my time doing my alchemy magic just for you. Now, looking back over the years since, I'm thinking, wow, are you kidding? A day of his time doing his alchemy magic. And if you've read his other stuff, there's a fabulous book I've got on my shelf here called The Valkyries. If you've not read The Valkyries, you must seriously read. It's when he and his wife go on holiday in the Mojave Desert. They meet up with these amazing people. And this is where he really hones. The book is all about how he hones his alchemy magic. And why the book itself has been so powerful is partly because it's supported by his alchemy magic. So here's this guy saying to me, I've done this for you, just for you. So I've asked the universe to give you whatever you need to become the alchemist in your world, so that whatever you want will come to pass. The thing is, Colm, you just need to decide what you want. And that was the toughest question that anybody's ever asked me. So I'm driving home after the restaurant. He flew back to Brazil. Driving home, I said to my wife, so, wow, what did you think of that? And she said, what did you think? I said, well, I was thinking a gold Rolex would have been nice. I could have flashed that. That could have been a good sort of story to keep me going at dinner parties for the next year. And she said, well, I think he gave you something much more valuable, don't you? And I said, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what happens. So that was the beginning of a new chapter in my life, to the point that from that day onwards, almost, with some decisions, with some effort, but this time with a whole new renewal of my desire to transform, to live my true self, to become my true self, to actually find the magic that Paolo was talking about, so that I could perform that same magic. Within several months, I was promoted way over my original position in HarperCollins. But I was still asking myself, what do I really want? If Paolo, if what he said is really true, let me decide what I really want. So I sat there one day and I decided I really wanted to start my own business. And within 2 years of meeting Paolo, I had the second largest digital advertising agency in Australia. I had 85 staff. We had one of the most successful businesses that I've ever been involved in. I was one of the founders, and it was amazing. We did the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. We did all their digital work, Channel 7 television, Toyota. I could just keep rattling off the brand names that we managed. And I remember going to the bathroom one day, because this is a few years after, and I looked at myself in the mirror, one of those take stock moments where you kind of have to pinch yourself to even realize where you are and how far you've come. And I looked back and I sort of said to myself in the mirror, so, how did you get to here? How did you get to this point? Are you grateful almost? Have you thought about what happened? And I thought, yeah, it was that night with Paolo in Sydney in the restaurant. And so my book is about the rest of my life, the next 27 years it's been, where I've entered into greater and deeper and understanding levels of spiritual alchemy, of how that relates to personal transformation, and how all of it, and especially when I started to study in much greater depth the original book, The Alchemist, what I'd realized is that what Paolo wrote back in 1993 was a handbook for understanding personal transformation through spiritual alchemy. It's full of it, page after page after page. And yet, if you read a lot of the student notes, so those of you that have studied at a high school, I know many of you were, forced to read it. I hope you enjoyed that experience. But many of the student notes hardly mention the powerful aspect of this book, which is spiritual alchemy. So I've been applying spiritual alchemy to my life over those many years, and it genuinely has taken me into a whole new dimension. And the dimension that I'm aiming for, which is what his book and both my book are all about, is that what we really desire, what our heart longs for, is true empowerment. An empowerment that enables us to love other people unconditionally, with no judgment, full acceptance, unconditional love that embraces vulnerability, that embraces weakness and turns it from what we mostly despise about ourselves, first of all, and judge about ourselves. It turns those things into our greatest treasure. So that is a rather lengthy answer, Derek, to your question about my encounter with Paulo Coelho in the book.
Great introduction to the book, to your life, to your work, everything, right? And how it all comes together. Couple comments we got here. Elin says, cool. I read it in prison back in 2006.
Oh, man.
That's awesome. And then Fred Lynch here says, I remember when Santiago finally came to inner peace and just weeping. It resonated so deeply within when he read that. And it's something like, it's interesting, just with the synchronicities, you mentioning the spiritual alchemy. I put out an album, my hip hop album in 2013 called Spiritual Alchemy is the name of my album.
Oh, fantastic.
And that was before I read The Alchemist. I didn't know anything about it.
Oh, you really? Seriously?
I think it was around 2015 when I read The Alchemist. And actually, another little synchronicity about it, my book that I promoted, it just came out. There's a chapter where I'm talking about my spiritual journey and going to take a trip with some men into the woods for a psychedelic psilocybin mushroom retreat that we did. And it changed my life. But that coupled with The Alchemist together, it's a recipe for the manifestation of dreams. But I wrote a little piece in here that I want to read. I want to try to read it. And this is in my plant medicine part of the book, Spirit Realm, but it's under manifestation. And so I kind of give the first journey that I did, and then I say this. A few weeks later, a book came across my path entitled The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and this book radically sparked something within my heart to pursue my dreams. In short, the book is about a boy who leaves his home and set out on a journey to find this hidden treasure. On his journey, he runs into characters that make him think about his life choices and journey. Essentially, the book is an allegory about our own journey, pursuing our own destiny and recapturing the dreams that we had when we were children. The book is not about some young man on his journey. It's about us on our journey. Having my psilocybin experience coupled with reading this book seemed to light a huge fire within me. It ignited an urgency to set out and start trying to bring the vision that I received into fruition. I was very excited, but this was still something very scary to me. Yet having these experiences really changed me. The book reminds you to recapture the dream you had as a child, but all the while, it forced me to see that so many people are stuck in their own day-to-day lives simply by default. The majority of people I encountered on a daily basis had given up on their dreams and just settled. This broke my heart and still does. I looked at my boss who had been with the company for over 20 years and I saw how angry and how bitter he had become over time. I thought to myself, I'm sure this was not his dream as a child, to work at a company where he is expendable and not happy. Somewhere along the line, he gave up on his dream. Inward reflection made me look at my own life at the age of 33 and know that somewhere along the line, I had given up on my dream. If I looked hard enough, I can tell when the exact time was. So was I destined to be just a truck driver for the rest of my life? Did the dream really pass me by? I know what I felt inside and the things that God had shown me, but my situation looked like the total opposite. This would drive me to tears thinking about it. At what age should you give up on your dream? What age do you buckle down and just accept things the way that they are and forget about what could have been just a pipe dream or vain imaginations? The answer is never.
Never.
You must fight for what you believe in. Nothing
Never.
comes overnight, and anything worth doing is worth doing right. I arrived
Never.
at this strange place mentally where I could clearly see where I was supposed to be, and it was liberating because I felt like God was the one showing me. And I go into much more detail, but that book changed my life. And I told you we had this thing when we read it. You said, when was the last time I read it? I've only read it once, but we had this rule. Once you read it, pass it on. You got to give it to somebody. Ask and pray. Ask the universe, ask God who needs this book. Whether it's a family member, whether it's a random friend, make sure you pass it along to somebody. And literally everyone who was in my path who read it, it sparked something within them. A friend of mine, Drew Gower, a good friend of mine, right under 400 pounds, miserable, addicted, felt like, depressed, outside, fun-loving guy, inwardly dying. He read The Alchemist. He was on these trips with me and changed his life, got down to under 200 pounds, started working out daily, going after his dreams, going after his goals. He wrote a book. In his book, he gives credit to The Alchemist, 100%. It's something like it's the magical elixir of dreams is woven into that book, and it's reading our heart's story. So whatever Paulio tapped into, this power of myth, the power of allegory, the hero's journey, it's so strong, and it comes through in that book, and that book will change your life. So that's my relationship with the book.
That's a great story, Derek. So we might just want to mention that my book, The Secret of the Alchemist, here it is. We're launching tomorrow. So there's a live book launch. I think we've got several hundred people already booked in to attend from all over the world. And what I set out to do with this book was to write a companion book, because nobody's ever really, well, I don't know anybody that's written a companion book to The Alchemist. And I guess because I felt such a kinship with Paolo from that very first moment when I believed, in the book, and my own quest to find out what is that magic, and can we also have that magic? So in addition to pulling out those buried dreams, in addition to believing again in the childhood dreams and re-enkindling them and pursuing them, there's a couple of other themes that I discovered, which I've revealed. And that's why I guess I called it Secret of the Alchemist. And one of those themes is that Paulo, and in a couple of the forwards to earlier editions of his book, he does say that he discovered his own version of alchemy. He went down a couple of traditional roads with alchemy, which didn't really work out at all for him. I do beg your pardon, I got cooking. He had a couple of people who were really leading him down some dangerous paths, and it nearly wrecked his life. And out of that, and if you read his latest book, Hippie, there was an episode that took place in Istanbul when his life spiritually kind of turned around, where he discovered this new type of alchemy, which is the Arabic version of alchemy. So just a quick background on alchemy, because that is what the Alchemist book is all about, as well as the hero's journey, as well as pursuing your dreams and allegories and so on. It's also about alchemy. Started 5,000 years ago in Egypt, exactly where the pyramids are. And of course, if you read the story of the Alchemist, that's where Santiago is going. So that is the big clue that really what Paulo's talking about in his story is pursuing Arabic version of alchemy. The gold that is in the dream that Santiago is hoping to discover, believe it or not, in the early days, there was a lot of gold actually in the sand of the desert around the pyramids. You know, the masks that the Egyptians made in their in the pyramids, in the tombs of the pharaohs, made from gold. All of that came from that local area. So alchemy was born, and in my book I give quite a bit of detailed history in the birth of alchemy and where it came from and the mythology around that. But then it came down through the centuries, right through the early stages of Christendom and Buddhism. So it predates all of these other religions, including Hinduism and so on. And what it did was it morphed into various different cultures in different ways. But the path of Arabic alchemy is all about listening to the soul, to the heart, listening to your intuition, learning to understand your intuition, but also, most importantly, to realize that we are all one. That we are one with each other, that we are one with the world, we are one with the universe, material and immaterial. And when that kind of dawns on you, and it can be a eureka moment, it can be a moment of spiritual awakening, just this realization, a Kunalingi moment, if you like, in Buddhism. It's that moment when you realize if we are all part of everything together, I can nurture, I can contribute to the whole, what's called the soul of the world in the story of the Alchemist, or I can bring destruction, or I can be negative, I can be a negative influence into that. The power of alchemy is when you realize that if you want to become a positive force in developing the soul of the world itself, the universe, the power of unconditional love, immediately will come to our aid, will enfold us, will embrace us and go, yay, yes, this, welcome.
I like that word you used, immediately. That's a good
immediately,
word.
yes, it won't even hesitate. It will give you help. It will give you guidance. It will direct you on the right path. It will help you discover your true destiny. It will take your life. I don't know whatever dimension you think you're on. I mean, I've been on several dimensions in my life. But trust me, ancient alchemy is all about allowing unconditional love to transform the self that we hide behind, the ego self, the masks that we wear, the pretense that we put on out of fear of judgment from others, out of the judgment we put on ourselves, to go into those places, the places we almost fear and despise the most within our own hearts, and allow love to touch those places. And I can tell you in my own life, miraculous magical stuff will begin to happen, as it's happened for you, Derek, and
Yeah.
I know for many of the people
Oh yeah.
who
No,
you
we
work with.
I've listened to some of your
Yeah.
other interviews and talking about just working with unconditional love and that creative force. And
Yes.
again, like, you know, I have a background in Christianity, and I kind of refer to myself as a Christian mystic, and we do that personified as the person of Jesus, which is like if love became a person in
Yes,
this
yes.
story. Jesus is the Melchizedek. That's something that was interesting when I read.
Yeah.
Because that's my light, is the light of Christ, right? The light of the world, and following that beautiful light, that in him is no darkness, and all of that. So all of that's embodied in that Christian Bible story. But reading The Alchemist and knowing that that's my inner guidance, and when I read about the interaction he has with this prophet type character by the name of Melchizedek, I'm like, oh man. And because I know what the name Melchizedek means. It's the Prince of Peace, you know.
Yeah.
And it sparked a lot of things for me, and even the whole Jesus connection here. Fred is also talking about how it was like a meta parable, like Jesus's parables, just telling the story of divine, universal love that doesn't have any restrictions. And so working with that, I think the book helps to teach you to do that, you know, working with love and healing yourself, and in doing that is healing the world. You walking in your true destiny, your calling, which is what the book helps you to do, heals the world. You're happy. I can't wait to get up and do what I love for a living. I used to loathe getting up. Another long day, and I had several of them back to back. And it never ended. It was like I was born to like be miserable, you know, and like the dreams you had as a kid, you let go. But to understand that, again, the universe, God wants to work with you to help bring those dreams and visions to pass. God didn't give you those dreams to taunt you. You got to work for it. You got to believe in it and ask for it, and believe that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, is what the scripture says. Seeking him is seeking light, seeking love, seeking to do good, helping people. And so that's, for me, it's true all throughout the scriptures. But the Melchizedek part really, really touched me too.
Yes. So I talk a lot about Melchizedek in fact, it's one of the chapters. There is a chapter called Enter Melchizedek. And there we go, chapter 4. So I unpack that whole character. It doesn't have to be Jesus.
No.
As you know, it doesn't have to be the Christ story. Like you, that was what happened for me. And I talk about that in my book. When I was 18, I met the cosmic Christ. I struggled then for decades trying to fit Christianity around my experience. In the end, I eventually gave up, and that was coincidentally when Paulo Coelho came into my life. And so I sort of found another metaphor. But I have Buddhist friends, I have Hindu friends, I have friends from multiple faiths and no faith whatsoever who have really sort of hooked on to my approach now, which is to say, it doesn't matter who or what we follow in the end, as long as the personality and the character of what we believe and trust in is unconditional love, then we're on the right path, because that's where we all came from. That is where we all go. And our backgrounds, our religious backgrounds are all different. Doesn't matter where we come from in the world. The nature of unconditional love does not change. And it's the nature of unconditional love that does the transforming. One of the interesting things about the alchemists of old is that they knew this stuff. So a lot of us think, oh, alchemy, that's a bunch of old wizardy kind of guys stuck in basements somewhere with pointed hats with stars on them, Merlin stuff. Nobody believes in that kind of, we've grown up out of all of that. Well, I hate to tell you this, but there was a guy last century called Professor Carl Jung, who I'm guessing most of your listeners have heard of at some point if they've read anything on spirituality. So this is where Carl Jung was the guy who talked about archetypes. So the wizard archetype and the maiden archetype and so on. And he's the guy who really revived our understanding of alchemy in the modern era. So he was a student of alchemy, thanks to one other guy who you've all heard of as well, a guy called Sir Isaac Newton, the guy who discovered gravity. I don't think an apple actually fell on his head, but it's a great story. So Sir Isaac Newton was also an alchemist. And thanks to him, he collected all of the ancient books that he could lay his hands on back in the 18th century, in the 1700s in England. And they're all still around in a library in Cambridge. You can visit the library at Cambridge University. So those are there. And Carl Jung got access to many of these books. And what he realized was that the theories of psychology and the psyche, in trying to understand the human brain and the human mind, mirrored exactly what he was reading from the ancient alchemists. Because what the ancient alchemists taught was that if you want to turn lead into gold, what that actually is a metaphor for turning the lead, the unwanted, the heavy weight that hangs in the soul. You want to turn that into something bright and shiny and that's full of treasure that becomes your greatest asset. Then the art of alchemy is all about that. And they talk about three key stages or phases that the alchemists would go through: the black phase, the white phase, and the red phase. I don't know, Derek, if you think it's appropriate. Would you like me to just unpack quickly?
We can go into it for sure.
Yeah. So Carl Jung really zoned in on this, and he wrote a book as well called Psychology and Alchemy. And if you do get a copy of my book, there's an ebook, by the way. There's an audio book, by the way. It's going to be released tomorrow. I give you all the bibliography. For those of you who like to study, like to read, I've done a lot of the hard work and found the sources of the roots of the story of alchemy in my book. And what you discover there, that the black phase in the metaphor of the laboratory of the alchemist is when they start to apply heat. And the aim is to melt down or break down the elements that they're trying to turn into gold to their very, very base level. And I made a commitment in my life when I was in my early 20s, not knowing anything about alchemy. I made a choice that I needed to transform the personality that I was. I wasn't very happy with, like you were saying earlier, Derek. I wasn't very happy with my life. I loved my life. I loved my family. I had a great family and everything, but I didn't love the life that I was living out, the personality that was coming out of me. And I fortunately came across a guy called Thomas Merton, who is a Catholic priest who wrote some fabulous books on contemplative prayer back in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And he introduced me to a book called The Dark Night of the Soul. Now, that actually was an ancient book written in the 17th century by a Catholic priest called St. John of the Cross. And that talks about how we can, if we allow love, and this is like a form of surrendering to love here. If we surrender to love, one of the things that love will do is it will strip us of all the falsehood and all of the pretense and all of the stuff that we hide behind, and allow us, if we want it, to discover the true self. However, the reason they call it the dark night of the soul is that when you enter into that process, which I did, I spent a whole year of my life, and I talk about it in my book, is allowing love to strip me back to the real self was not a very pleasant experience. In fact, when I talk to people on one-to-one about it, I usually recommend they find a professional counselor. If you're contemplating finding the real bare self, vulnerable self, stripped of all of the things that we want to get rid of in our life, it does feel as if you hit rock bottom. Now, some people hit rock bottom through drugs. Some people hit rock bottom through drink. Sometimes grief, a terrible trauma will do it. Many of us will reach that point anyway in our lives. And what I decided was that I would choose to go there before life took over and took me there anyway, because I wanted to be prepared for who is the real me when everything else is taken away, everything that is of no real value. Who am I left with? Now, what I discovered was really interesting. First of all, I discovered a really, really angry young boy. And that was me. Living within my psyche was a very angry toddler. And the problem I was having as an adult was that this angry toddler, through no control of mine, would just break out and decide to have a voice in the most inconvenient moments when I was trying to be loving and kind to other people. So I discovered an inner child who was wounded, who was in a lot of pain, and was pretty angry about that. And that was, I only reached the knowledge of that person that was living in me by going through that black stage of alchemy, the black phase, that melting down. So here I was. I now had a relationship with this new person called young Colm, who was pretty angry and was pretty vocal about that. And I just kind of stood back and said, okay, Colm, little Colm, why don't you talk to love about this stuff? And I managed to get help from a guy called Dr. Frank Lake, who I've dedicated my book to, sadly passed now. And he introduced me to Primal Therapy. Probably not that different to the mushroom awareness stuff that you were doing. I mean, we didn't use mushrooms, we just used hyperventilation. So in a controlled environment, this guy, very, very skilled, and was up there with the most professional people of his time. John Lennon did the same thing, only he went to Los Angeles and did the same therapy with another doctor. And he wrote later, or spoke later, saying how much help that gave him and helped him to deal with the young John Lennon, who is famously known for the pain and some of the wounds that he went through as a child. So I went through the same thing. And what I discovered is that there was a reason for the young child's anger inside me. And that was that he was locked in a cupboard. So I was able to revive memories I completely buried from when I was 2 years old, when my mother, because she wanted to protect me from an undiagnosed illness that she had. So she had epilepsy. It was undiagnosed, and I was at home alone with her. And when she would begin to have a fit, to protect me, she would lock me in a cupboard under the stairs. So those of you who know your Harry Potter stories, J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter lived under the stairs. And of course, you can imagine my amazement reading years later after discovering my child under the stairs. Oh, here's Harry Potter. So a lot of people said, oh, you're Harry Potter. No, I don't know J.K. Rowling, and I'm sure it's a coincidence. It is, but there's a synchronicity there as well, because we've all been locked, Derek, in the cupboard. Whatever that symbolism means to us, we've all suffered wounds, and quite often those are the wounds. That's the pain that we're trying to avoid. And what Carl Jung's taught is that this is the formation of the shadow self. The unconscious mind, if you study Carl Jung, and it's good, you can Google it, you only need to devote half an hour and you'll get the gist of it for sure, is that Carl Jung believed that the unconscious mind is the place, the residue, it's the sort of repository of the pain and the wounds of our earlier life. Sometimes it can be recent, sometimes it can be past. Many, many of us experience abuse, some much more serious than others, and my heart goes out to anyone who's in that state. And those wounds fester within the unconscious, and then they break out of the unconscious into the conscious mind, and can be completely destructive.
Yeah.
Carl Jung, the alchemist, talked about it, the dragon within. So that dragon self can break out. There's a fabulous book by a guy called Robert Johnson, which I've also referenced in my book, which is called Owning Your Own Shadow. It's only a really thin volume, less than 100 pages. You can read it in an hour or so. But it helped transform me and made me understand at this time when I was needing to understand the unconscious and the child in the unconscious. And so I invited love, as we were talking about earlier, I invited unconditional love to come and to heal, to meet this child who's locked in the cupboard. And unconditional love did. And then when I later met Paulo, and I had now this new fable to build my life around, the story of the alchemist, what I realized is that Santiago, the main character in the story, when he leaves his home and he starts on the alchemy journey, of course, if he's going to follow the three phases, black, white, and red, then he's going to lose everything. And guess what? When he arrives in North Africa from Spain, the first thing that happens is he's robbed of his entire identity. All the money he had is gone. He's got rid of his sheep. He's no longer a shepherd. He's in a strange land, in a strange place. He doesn't know anything about this place at all. That is the black phase of alchemy. And then when he's in that state, he walks up the hill to the place called the Crystal Shop. He's hungry. He's got no money. He needs to eat. And he goes into the shop and he asks the owner of the shop if he can start cleaning the crystal glass in the shop, because just to get some money or even a meal, can you give me a meal? As he's cleaning the crystal glass, guess what? 2 customers come in, they buy the glasses, and those are the first customers that the merchant has had for years. He was almost thinking of closing the shop down. What is this a metaphor for? It's the white phase in alchemy, when we get down to the bare bones of the real self, of who we are. And then we allow love to cleanse that part of ourselves. That's the white phase of alchemy. So more heat in the laboratory from the alchemists, it turns the substance into a white substance. And after about 9 months in the crystal shop, Santiago emerges. He's got more gold back in his pocket again. He's dressed in a white Arab gown, and he's gone through the process of cleansing. So for me, that process was allowing love to heal the inner child. For Santiago, it was about a cleansing of the spirit, of the soul. I guess at this point, he's ready to continue his journey towards the pyramids and find true empowerment, the final leg of the journey. And that final leg is where he meets this character, the alchemist. And that's what the book's named after. That's what the alchemist is going to teach Santiago is, guess what, Santiago? Everything that you've done so far on this journey is all part of the alchemist's journey. And I'm going to help you on the final leg, the red phase. And that's what the book is about from there on in. We can talk about the final phase in Santiago. Did you have any other questions, Derek? Have we got any other comments?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of comments just
Okay.
about people, their experiences with the book and
Great.
with alchemy. For me, the one thing that sticks out is the synchronicity behind it all, that you're in the right place at the right time, even if it doesn't feel like it, like that rock bottom place, or that place of that seems like the dark night of the soul. There's a reason for that. You have to pass through that. You're not there to camp. You're not there to stay. You're going to pass through it. And so even the people who come into the shop, like if he wasn't there, if he didn't use his own natural gifts to clean and those things, and just the people who come, that if you would have even been a couple blocks down the road doing a different job, you wouldn't have ran into those people. So understanding how the universe lines everything up for you to where you're supposed to be on your journey, those right people come in, the people that you're supposed to meet, those people who are supposed to be gone, the things that you're carrying that you don't need anymore, that you just don't want to let go of. Your like identity is in those things. You got to be stripped of it. that's going through that fire, the baptism of fire again with the heat of alchemy. So I love it. So good. But yeah, we could talk about the end as well. It'd be good.
So the Alchemist appears after an episode at the Oasis. The episode at the Oasis is the beginning of Santiago's understanding of what you just talked about, which is you will know that you're in the right place because omens, as Paolo talks about them in the story of the Alchemist, or synchronicity, which Carl Jung coined that phrase. There's this fabulous story of Carl Jung's when he's trying to do some psychoanalysis with a woman who is so intellectually not buying into this whole the unconscious and the fact that she needs to listen to her intuition and dreams. And she said, oh, but strangely, I had a dream last night about a scarab beetle. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I've done an introduction, and there's a fabulous introduction that some friends of mine produced for me. And it begins with the scarab beetle digging away in the sand in the desert. And that's a reference to the scarab beetle that Santiago discovers right at the very end of the book when he's digging for the treasure. How does he know where to dig? There's this little scarab beetle scratching away. Well, guess what? It's in Carl Jung's teaching as well. The woman said, I've just had a dream about a scarab beetle. And he says, oh, hang on a minute. And on the window behind her in the office is a scarab beetle. And he opens the window and he gives it to her into her hand and said, here's the beetle from your dream. And she goes, whoa, okay, all right, there might be something in this unconscious dream stuff that you're talking about. So Paolo, and my experience is that omens and synchronicity can be and should be just a daily occurrence in our lives, because they are the universe just saying, yes, you're on the right track. Yes, you're in the right place. Yes, the decisions you're making and the course that you've directed your life on, because you are the captain of your destiny. And let's remember one of the things Melchizedek says, Derek, to Santiago when he's in the original market square. He's reading a book, and Melchizedek says, I know what's in that book that you're reading. I mean, what's in there is the greatest lie that exists in humankind. And the lie is that we're not in control of our own fate or our own destiny. That it's sometimes we're manipulated. We're like puppets on strings. If you feel that, then I strongly recommend you either read my book or The Alchemist or Derek's book quickly, because you need to get out of that.
Yeah.
If that's where your head is, then I'm sending blessings in your direction right now that you can be rescued from that mindset. Yeah. If you feel that even some other person in your life is pulling your strings, stop. Now, please take stock. Realize that what the universe has given us is individual freedom to pursue our own destiny, to find our own place in the world. If somebody else is determining that, or somebody else has written that for you, whether it's horoscopes or whatever it is you're clutching to, rather than making your own decisions, the moment you do that, then omens and synchronicity and stuff was just going to come pouring into your life and say, there you are, you see, now you're on the right track. There you are, you see, follow this. There you are, see, don't go there. Listen to your intuition, because sometimes doors are just going to go slamming shut. Rarely in my life, since I've been following these process of omens and synchronicity, have I been in a doorway that, should I go this way or should I go that way? I just ask for help. I don't know you, Derek. I just say, show me.
I don't have to. Okay. Yeah, that's when I say it a lot. I don't have to force any doors open anymore. No. Used to, I had to hope somebody helped me. I had to beg for, help and stuff like that, or which door to go, or try to get you to like me. But now it's like, listen, it's like now I'm walking up to the supermarket. The doors open without even touching them. I'm going the right way. I don't have to force any doors open. I don't have to proselytize either. That was a big thing with my faith, was like I had to get you to believe my story or get you to believe my truth or whatever. Like I don't have to do that anymore. That part of it is gone. And so it falls upon the ears of the people and comes across their table when they're ready for it, just like it did for me. When I was ready for it, I had things I had to go through and learn. You could have told me, if you would have told me months, days, maybe even minutes before I learned different principles in my life that I had to go through, learning through experience, true gnosis, I wouldn't have got it. There's been people coming begging me, trying to beat me over the head with this stuff, and I didn't get it. But it was when I went through the things, I understood that I'm working with the creator with this stuff. I'm a co-creator with.
Yes.
I'm a creator made in the image of a creator.
Yes.
Like, and so understanding that we get to work with God, with that light, with unconditional love to bring about the things that are within you. You have some say-so in the matter. You're not just on default anymore. The thing is, like, people are already masters at manifestation. They've just been unconsciously manifesting their destiny. Every job, every place, every relationship, wherever you are, you manifested it, but you were unconsciously doing it. So now to step into it consciously, looking around for the omens, looking for the signs, looking for the symbols, asking for them. If you don't see them, ask for them. The universe gladly give you things. And it's beautiful that we are co-creators in that process.
Santiago, to sort of bring us to the end of the Santiago story in The Alchemist, he meets the Alchemist, and you've got to go and read it, everybody, if you haven't. And it gets to a point when he has to go through the final part of the red phase, which is exactly what Derek is talking about. And that's the phase where he has to, as I said right at the beginning, realize that he is he is part of the universe. He's not separate from it. He's not a lesser part of it. He's not a weaker part of it. He is part of all the glory of it. And if that's the case, if there is a power attached to unconditional love, if love can change things, not just by the loving actions that we perform, which are essential, of course, in the way that we don't judge other people, in the way we accept one another without any constraints, with no division, with no classification of each other. We just embrace each other for who each other is. If all of that is possible, then there is a power, a magic available to us to actually change the outcome of things. So when Derek's talking about manifestation, what I believe by that, Derek, is that if I actually believe I'm working along with unconditional love, and I genuinely have a deep sense that this ending or this manifestation should come to pass, and it could be some things in my life, it can be something in somebody else's life. I mean, this is what I do day to day for other people. People come to me and say, can you help me bring about this next step that I'm trying to do? There's lots of reasons why it can't happen. There's lots of reasons why it can happen. But the main reason why it can happen is that if somebody aligns their intent along with unconditional love to manifest something of huge benefit to everyone in the soul of the world, then the probability is that an alchemist can help you bring that to pass. And that's what the alchemist did for Santiago. It wasn't the way he thought it was going to be, because they were just about to be killed in the story by a bunch of bandits in the desert. And the alchemist says to the bandits, oh, yeah, you can kill us if you want. You take our gold. That's all fine. No problem with that. But why don't you ask this boy to show you his magic? And the chief says, well, what magic can he do? He says, oh, he can turn himself into the wind. No problem. Easy. And the boy's going, what? No, are you kidding? I have no idea. I have no idea how to turn myself into. We're going to die because I can't do it. And we're all going to be in that point. So when we decide to push on, do you remember at the beginning I said we reach a point where we can become complacent in our spiritual journey? The alchemist is going to come and tap us on the shoulder at that point and say, hey, Derek, hey, Colm, guess what? There's more. There's even more. Yeah. And then there's more. How much courage do you have to keep stepping out? And the the courage that we're looking for is there when we open our soul to unconditional love in the moon, in the sun, in the stars, in God, in Jesus, in Buddha, wherever, all the help, the communion of saints, the ancestors, the angels, doesn't matter where we source, as long as it's love, all of that power can come to our aid, and we can move mountains. We can be, as Jesus said, to quote you, Derek, earlier, greater things than I do, you can do. And that's because we are co-creators with unconditional love. Yeah, I've seen lives mended. I've seen amazing outcomes. I've seen complete turnarounds. You've seen it, I know, as well. And that is one of the exciting things. That's why I love the book, The Alchemist, is because that allegory is going to take us to our own world and enable us to see the great treasure that we can bring about in our lives and those around us. And yeah, so that's why I wrote my book. That's why I call it a companion to The Alchemist. And I hope if anyone's looking to find more meaning and more power in their lives, then yep, you probably need both of these. And why don't you buy Derek's book as well while you're at it? Because
when you add those books to a bundle in a cart, you usually get a discount on the shipping. So
yes,
make sure
you do.
you add two together for sure.
That's true as well, especially.
Man, so it's so beautiful. Speak a little bit about miracles and about how, like, because I get in trouble when I talk about magic, and I say I practice magic, and I say Jesus practiced magic. I say Jesus used white magic, and the religious community hates that jargon, or even like occult, just meaning hidden. He knew hidden things that he revealed. They don't like those terms, but a little bit about magic and pertaining to miracles, if you will.
I don't separate for me, magic and miracles mean the same thing. Words are loaded. They have different connotations. So if people have a problem with magic, I'll use the word miracles.
Yeah.
And do I mean the kind of miracles that Jesus performed? Yeah, for sure. However, I do come with a huge word of caution. If I'm personally looking to manifest something in my life, I do spend a lot of time asking unconditional love whether this thing can change or not. And I see so many people whose hearts get broken because their expectations, particularly about physical healing, doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I personally, I'm not a preacher. So I'm not going to be in a healing tent somewhere. You'll never find me there. That's not what I'm talking about here. So miracles and magic are very personal. So what is a miracle to me is very personal to me. I might tell you about it. I probably won't. Does it happen? Yes, it does. So is it secret from that point of view? Yes, it's a very personal thing. It's a very personal relationship. Do I need other people to believe me? No, not at all. Am I able to help other people's lives without them knowing about it? Yeah. Yes, I am. And I know you have, Derek. There are people that we've interceded for, who we've invoked love for, whose lives have improved, who don't even know that we exist, or don't even know that we did that work for them. And so going back to my experience with Paulo Coelho, when he said, I asked God what to give you, Colm, and he said, God said to give a day of my time doing my alchemy magic. That's what I'm talking about. Call it contemplative prayer, call it meditation, call it prayer, call it whatever you want. In the end of the day, it's about our relationship with unconditional love, where there's no asking, there's no pleading, there's no begging. It's an intimate relationship, a co-relationship of creating something good. in the world around us. So yes, that's what I mean by magic. That's what I mean by miracles, and that's how it's done.
So good. I'm with it. I love it, and I'm doing a study right now on prayer and just about getting the consciousness right, or getting conscious, having a clear conscience before God, so that there is no hindrance in prayer. That you believe for the things that you ask for, and again, the things with your destiny. There's a scripture that really stands out to me when it comes to all this destiny stuff and walking in that, and it says, "Delight thyself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." So it's this place of walking and living in delight, delighting thyself in the Lord daily, a daily delight, so that whatever you ask for, you shall freely receive, as long as it's according to the will of universal love, of you're going to use it for good. It's not for selfish gain, selfish reason, those things. So those desires change over time. I will say the things that I used to desire, I don't desire anymore. I desire to help people. It's a little less selfish and those kind of things. So your desires do change, but all of that stuff comes together with walking in that perfect peace and seeing that manifestation happen in your life for the things that you're believing for yourself, and to help others get to that level, because there's people who sometimes need to borrow your faith and kind of need help coming up to where you are. And so we are to live our lives as examples of how this stuff works. Because it works for me. And if you're looking for it and you need help, we're here to help people. We're here to do talks like these and print books like yours, and just help people get from one level to where they are to the next. Spiritually, physically, mentally, it's spiritual alchemy. I love it, man.
Bless you, Derek.
The book comes out tomorrow. This is tomorrow's the 1st, is it? No, 31st.
31st. So it's 31st in the UK, and then the 1st in the USA. Yeah, globally. Yeah, it's available on all good online.
Great. So
bookshops around the world.
I'll have a link here in the description,
Thanks.
and so people can just instantly click on it and get it, add it to your shopping cart. Make sure you do it. I'm telling you, if I only tout a few books. The Alchemist is one of them. There's a couple that I tout, and so for yours as being a compendium to The Alchemist, and just the way that you help people understand it. Now, what about those people who read it and don't understand it, and so they would need a compendium like your book? Are there those people who get it and they're just like, it was pretty good? Yeah.
Paolo says something which I love. He said there are 3 kinds of alchemists in the world. There are those who just get it, they just do it. They don't even have to think about it. And we've met some of those people, and they're amazing. Then there are those of us, there are those who study, think it's all in the books, and you've got to spend hours and hours understanding all the intricacies and all of that. And then they try to get them to explain it, and they just can't explain it. So I feel sorry for those. And then there's people, I think a bit like you and me, who we know we need it, and we're seekers after it, hence your name of your podcast. We go seeking after the truth, and we do find it, and we do our best. And we do our best to try and explain it. So that's what I've done. I've done my best to explain, both from my own study, but also from my own life experience, what the original story of the Alchemist actually means. Yeah.
And it's for everybody, though, right? It's not just for some select few to step into their destiny or their dreams.
There's we've estimated there's at least over 250 million people around the globe that have probably read The Alchemist. If you count all the books are sold and have been lent out and given away like you did, all the kids who have studied it at school. So there's plenty of people out there who are probably sitting on the ability to unleash a whole new power in their life by just revisiting The Alchemist, hopefully with the help of my book, and discover that actually there is another dimension of life, even beyond just believing in your dreams, that you can discover in that book.
Yeah, there's a path, there's a journey to get there, and you help people get there by understanding the signs and the symbols and the synchronicities and how to follow it. It's good stuff. Let me get your take on this person. This is somebody who's near and dear to my heart as well, because you're into alchemy, you're into philosophy. What is your take on Manly P. Hall?
I've not studied So I can't comment, actually,
Okay.
Derek. I'm sorry. He's not somebody who I've really
Okay.
studied. So you tell me what
Oh,
what
yeah.
does he mean?
For me, he's more of a historian, giving you the different takes on different cultures and how they operated in alchemy is a big subject he covers. But he will kind of give
Okay.
you the history of different types of alchemy, of magic, different types of magic, and how different cultures and different people operated in them, and maybe even temple mysteries and how to go through temple initiations from ancient cultures and people of coming of age and that kind of stuff. So he really, for me, he's more like he's a philosopher as well, but more of a historian of going into some of these
Okay.
ancient religious practices and really showing you how they're all the same. There's things that set them apart differently. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because he's into philosophy, into Alchemist. I didn't know if he was somebody that you had studied at all or
He
not.
wasn't on my reading list, but he is now.
Yeah,
I've written. Thanks for that.
his great work is The Secret Teachings of All Ages. That's his big work, but he touches on a little bit of everything. So yeah, you see a lot of the alchemy symbolism and stuff in his artwork. But yeah, Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages. So beautiful book.
Thanks.
Yeah, I wanted to get your take on it.
It is now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I might take a while to get through. That's a lot thicker than my book.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That's a couple of months study, no doubt.
Yeah. So, again, Colm, thank you for hanging out with me. I enjoyed it. And hopefully everybody clicks that link in the description right now, wherever you go, or go ahead and order that book. It's not expensive, and it'll change your life for sure. Colm, thanks for hanging out with me, man. I loved it.
Eric, no, all mine. The thanks for all mine. Thank you for having me. It's been a real joy to speak to you today. And thank you for all the wonderful things that you do, for being committed for so many years to doing what you're doing now, and every blessing on your journey forward.
Amen. Thank you so much, and I return the favor to you, and so be it, my brother. Thanks so much. Shalom. Peace, brother. Colm Holland, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Boom, manifestation. Look, you want to figure out how to do it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Find somebody who's doing it and get with them. They'll show you how to do it. Show you how they did it. That's all I can do. I can't give you anything that I haven't experienced or that I don't have within me. And understanding that everything is within you, but you just haven't unlocked it yet. You haven't discovered it. So when you do go through that journey of going through trials and tests and fire and all of these impurities are getting burned out of you, you understand that process on how to do it and why it's a good thing. You're able to help people do that for themselves and take them with you on that journey. Like freely you receive, freely give. Why would you hold it back? You know what I'm saying? And so whatever can help them get to that next level spiritually, of just being open and honest with your journey. That by itself, you're already an expert. You already have the expertise on how to do it. Now you may need help articulating it. You may need help embodying it. You may need help explaining it. But just you being open and honest about your mistakes, about your flaws, about your journey, it helps so many people. That's the only thing I'm doing. I don't think that there's anything like really special, even with my podcast or anything that I'm building or doing. It's just being honest. I don't have all the answers. Like I'm not like the best teacher. I'm not the best at anything. But as long as I'm being open and honest about it and I hide nothing from anyone, then you're walking in that light. That light is unconditional love. Allowing that light to refine you, allowing that light to renew you. Again, in the interview, I told him, like, my light is Christ. He is the light of the world. He is the light that lighteth every man who cometh into the world. And there are so many similarities about this journey of healing, this journey of restoration, of building, of tearing down. That's all throughout the scriptures. It's like it's found through this relationship with that light, which is unconditional love. It's a loving thing to sit in judgment. Judgment is a good thing if you look at it and use it the right way. If you allow yourself to be judged with the light and love of God, open up your heart, become vulnerable, and allow the things to burn off of you that are not supposed to be there. What burns it? The fire of God, which is the unconditional light of Christ. Allow it to burn it away. Allow that love to enter your heart, move into your entire body. permeate your brain. Go deep down into the soul and spirit and allow the love of Christ to do that, refine that. Get anything out of your life, off of your path that's not supposed to be there. Help you overcome obstacles, burdens, and hurdles with the light and love of Christ. He's with you. Stop carrying your yoke of bondage and your heavy burdens and all of this stuff that you don't need. Lay it down. Take his yoke upon you. Learn from him. So for me, the Alchemist in this journey, it's embodied through my relationship with Jesus. I trust me, I had so many more scriptures to interject that, that talk about walking in your destiny. It's interesting though when we tie all this in with the Bible, because I'm a Bible person. That's just what I am. A lot of like religious Christians will get upset because they're like, oh, you're thinking about the flesh. You're thinking about the, your physical reality, and it's about spiritual principles, and it's not about your job, or it's not about money. You're making it all, but it is. Like, what other reality is there that you're living on this earth? Yes, you have a spiritual reality, but if your spiritual reality has no power, no authority, and no say-so in your physical reality, you're living in a strong delusion that the Bible talks about is coming upon the land. A strong delusion. You have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof. You're religious. You're not spiritual. You're superstitious. Examine yourself to see whether you're in the faith. Every area of your life, allow the word of God, allow the light of God to permeate and illuminate your path. It is a light unto your feet. It is a lamp unto thy path. Thy word is truth. I'm telling you, it's so good. We got to get back in it. Got to get back in it. So good. One thing about the Alchemist that I found that like maybe even myself was a little standoffish about it, but I remember like even telling, I throw the Christian stuff out there. We have so many Christians listening. I have so many Christian friends. I'm a Christian mystic, right? I call myself a Christian. I believe in Christ Jesus as my savior. So the Christians, when you say the word alchemist or alchemy, that's immediately a red flag. Oh Lord, what are you teaching me alchemy? You're teaching me alchemy. So for them, it's a skill, and they think it's witchcraft. They think like alchemy is witchcraft. Like, I don't know, just the association with the word from movies or some of the ancient books and philosophers who talked about it. I don't know. But the Philosopher's Stone, right? This all is, it's allegory. It's really not about transforming the transmutation of lead into gold and going through this process. But it is. It's the journey within you that you are being purified by the fire of God, the fiery trials. You're going through this fire and you're being refined 7 times over, and you're going to come out as pure gold. So all the impurities get burnt out. This is sanctification. We call it in Christendom the sanctification process. This is the refiner's fire. It burns. Sometimes it hurts. It's uncomfortable. You're holding things. You have things that you, spirits and ideas and identities that are so engrafted in you that you think that they're a part of you. They're personas, they're judgments that other people have put upon you that are so engrafted and become a part of you that when it's time to remove it, it removes a part of your skin like an old Band-Aid that was on, and you just rip it off. It hurts. You got to get it off, man. You got to get it off. Remove it. Adam Starseed Bay here in the chat, my brother. He says, yeah, like I have a $1,100 mortgage payment every month, and there is no way around that, plus other bills and essentials, and one has to balance the physical reality and the spiritual reality. You got to, yeah. There's people who, I mean, obviously the key word there in that sentence, brother, is balance. Balance, because you just like we know people who are all about money. It's all about money, and that's all they talk about. That's all they care about. There is no spiritual reality. It's all about the consumerism, Marxian thought that your money determines your value and things like that. And then there's people on the other side where it's all about spirituality. They have no authority in the spiritual realm. They don't know how to manifest. Everything's in their head. They don't even know how to share it with regular people. So they don't know how to articulate it or bring it down to share. That's a process. The balance is in the middle. And it's not being so spiritually minded that you're no earthly good, but being spiritually minded that you're earthly incredible. You have to balance the two. And so whatever it is, read, if you have not read The Alchemist, you definitely got to read it. I know you don't read a lot of books. I don't either. You probably read more books than me. But The Alchemist is definitely one of the books that I tout. And again, reading Colm's book here, the compendium, which is the secret behind it, allowing you to understand the deeper mysteries of it. So, Adam says, I just can't say, universe, pay off my mortgage. It's part of the experience. No, but you can ask the universe for help, and it'll give you ideas. Even the idea could be, taking out a second mortgage or something like that and having smaller payments, smaller house. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. There's things that you could probably do right now that you already have access to that you can do without. You can put out a book, all of your knowledge in a book, and probably make $1,100 a month by selling that book on every time you go live, post that link. You notice that's what I do. All of my videos, I have the link to buy my book in the description. So if somebody shares that video, if somebody sees it, they like what I said, boom, hey, there's the link, buy the book. So you could probably put a book out, put a course out. You share all this stuff freely like I do, right? Everything that I've even put in this book that's for sale in my private sessions, my courses and all that stuff that's behind a paywall, like you have to pay to get that. I'm working on a way where you can get it for free though. That's going to benefit us both. When you put it behind a paywall, it may be a little bit harder for those people who can't pay for it and they can't get it or can't resonate with it. But everything that's in there, everything that's behind the paywall, my meditations, like it's all free as well. It's just weaved in and out of my 334 episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast. You might have to listen to every single one of them to hear these stories, to hear all of this stuff that's, even our guided meditations. Like we do guided meditations and prayer and all that stuff on the podcast. So I feel like for me, anything that is behind the paywall that you have to pay for, you can get it for free. You just got to go find it. You can listen to a podcast and I'm read through all of this stuff. I'm trying to put the audio book out for free, but it has to be approved first. So again, I've been waiting over a month, almost 2 months now, month and a half on that to be approved. But what I'm saying is that money is not, you can't look at money as an object. Money is a flow of energy and current. And so open yourself up to receive it. That $1,100 ain't nothing. I know people who pay double that, like a boss, and they got all kind of stuff. Money is just an object. Money is here to serve you. Expect it, call it into your life, and look for different creative ways to make it. Give money. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever it is, your relationship with money has to change. Because even with that, there's the idea that it's scarcity, that there's only a little bit of money out there for everybody. We're dealing with that now with different religious groups and mystic groups and stuff who have Patreons or have followers or have an audience like, hey, they can't support me and Adam. They only got to pick one. So there's a scarcity mentality you got to repent of. You got to step out of that. It's not about money. Listen, if people have money, they want to support you, they will. You have to make sure you're supporting people as well. But this battling and of doctrines and of ideas, listen, that's for the enemy. That's for Satan. Whatever Satan is definitely rooted in that, for sure. Whatever the devil is definitely rooted in division and backbiting and in gossiping, and that there's not enough to go around for everybody. So I'm going to keep it to myself because you may take it. I rebuke that in Jesus' name. That's demonic. For sure, 100%. No matter who you are, the deepest esoteric linguistic mystic to your religious right-wing zealot, doesn't matter. Whoever you are, understand that God's love is for everyone and that there's enough to go around for everyone. Get out of that scarcity mentality. If you're looking to get to the next level, you got to leave that at the door for sure, 100%. Money is definitely a part of it. It takes money to pay bills. It takes money to pay your mortgage. You have not, for you ask not. You put yourself out there, ask for money. Put a book out. Do a course, man. Adam, I'm picking on you personally because I know you, right? But do that course. I'll buy it. I'm telling you, you put a book out, I'm the first one to buy it. We're going to have you on here for another interview. The people who resonate with what I do, they're going to buy it. People are going to buy this book, Colm Holland's book, after this interview because we talked about it. So I would rather promote someone that I know personally and be able to get your stuff out there which you don't need me to do because you have a great reach and audience yourself. Many of you, I'm calling you to greatness. Stand up, men of God. Stand up. All of y'all. Y'all finna see. I'm finna demand y'all to stand up. Y'all can't be riding coattails. Y'all can't just be passively getting along like Eeyore. I'm just barely getting by, guys. No, y'all got so much to offer, and I want to see it come out. I'm finna help people brand their podcast, put their podcast out, helping them write their books, all of that. Listen, it's going down. If you ain't with it, you're getting left behind. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom, man. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Really good. You got to understand that the very few books I tout for, one of them is The Alchemist. And again, Colm Holland is breaking it down. He helped put that book out. He saw potential in that. You know what I'm saying? Come on, it's part of the story. Go ahead and purchase his book. Check it out and support it. It'll change your life. Don't do it for Colm. Don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Literally, there's probably 5 books that I recommend to people, and that's one of them. So make sure y'all get it. Check it out, and it'll change your life. If you want to be a part of our School of the Mystics online sessions, we're doing that tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Don't be late. We're going to be going through some material. We're going to be going back to the basic prophetic training for prophetic ministry, being able to tap into your prophetic abilities, and seeing that, practicing it, seeing the fruit come of it. So there's some material that we're going to be reading, course that we're going through. We're going to do it together. Make sure you're there. We're going to do it every week. I'm going to try to record it. If you're not able to make it, if you're hearing this late and you want to get in on it, you can go back and listen to the replays. But it's practical stuff about tapping into your prophetic abilities. We've done it before, right when I started the School of the Mystics a couple years ago, and it was really good, and I miss it. So guess what? We're about to jump back into it. Basic prophetic training for the prophetic ministry on the School of the Mystics, Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central. You get access by becoming a patron. Any level of giving get you access. It just signs you up for the emails. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. We're going to do it again. Peace, peace.
Your will so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.